Steve Gamache with a Chef Knives to Go quick look product video on the Konosuke HD Funayuki Gyuto Profile 240 knife. This line of knives has a core steel of HD, it's proprietary semi-stainless steel, and it's got a heat treat of about 61 Rockwell, and it is a monosteel blade, so the entire blade is made out of that same material. There's no cladding. You've got a nice embossed logo on these that's stamped in there that won't wear off, and the weight on this is very light at 5 ounces. This is one of the quintessential laser type knives. The weight on this is 141 grams, as I said, at 5 ounces. Very, very light knife. And the blade length is 232, so it's a little under a 240, and about 9.15 inches. The overall length on this knife is 15.4. The spine at the base is about 2.4 on this particular knife. And it tapers down just a little, pretty much holds at around 2 or so, tapers down a bit more, and then tapers down really nicely, distal taper towards the tip, very thin at the tip on this knife. And the height on this is 49.5, so just right around what I consider perfect kind of middle-of-the-road height for a 240, or this under 240 in this case. Their handle is a just nicely finished, good basic octagonal Howood, ambidextrous buffalo horn ferrule. About 3-inch diameter, so perfect diameter just kind of for this style knife. And it's a very light handle. The balance point on this knife is just about right on the money on a pinch grip, so it's about right here. Pinch grip is awfully close to that, and this knife just feels so featherweight light for a 240 in the hand. It feels lighter than most 210s. So if you're concerned about the length on the 210 versus the 240, when you get into these laser Konosuke knives, you're going to be very surprised how light this is, and it really handles like a lot of 210s. What I did want to show you, though, is this has a blonde buffalo horn ferrule. They sometimes will have blonde, sometimes they'll have black. So when I bought mine, this is my own personal knife here, it did have blonde, was available, so that's what I got. So sometimes they'll offer either or both of these type of ferrules just to let you know what the difference is. Sometimes they'll have one, sometimes they'll have the other, sometimes they'll have both available. The knife, of course, is very, very thin at the edge, and the whole blade is quite thin, although it's got some decent convexing as best it could be done with a thin blade like this. It's not much metal to work with on thickness. And the profile is a Funayuki / Gyuto, so it's a bit more pointed towards the tip, and it's kind of slanted towards a flatter overall profile than a traditional 240, most traditional 240 Gyutos. So it's got a bit more of a lengthy flat spot and a little bit less belly to it. You could still rock with this, just not on tall ingredients, and it does lend itself a little more towards the push cutting kind of slicing style technique. The difference between this and a standard style 240, let's pull one out. I don't have a Konosuke here equivalent, but because they do make a regular 240 Gyuto version of this, but this is the Suisun Inox, 240. But let's kind of compare the two knives. We can get them looking here. There we go. But the Funayuki, kind of its pattern after what's known as a boat knife for fish, but it's thinner at the tip. And what happens is the spine comes down more towards the tip and kind of meets the edge versus the edge coming up to meet the spine. So if we look at traditional 240 Gyuto, you can see the spine has held its height much longer throughout the knife and then comes down more towards the tip to meet the edge, whereas the edge here holds and then comes up more with more belly throughout the entire, so just more general curve and belly throughout the entire edge versus this holds that flat spot longer and even more gentle towards the tip. So that's hopefully a little illustration of the difference there. It's not a greatest picture in the world, but this is thinner at the tip, it's pointier at the tip, it's got less mass there, but real nice in terms of more detail work. If you want to do some really small detail work, it's really thin, really pointy. So a little different style. Not for everybody, but there it is. So this knife handles beautifully. This is my own. It just blows through ingredients. It's not meant to be a heavy-duty workhorse to cut through really rough stuff. If you have great technique, you can cut a surprising amount of ingredients with this, but it's a thin, light knife, and it's kind of oriented towards a certain style of cutting and a certain type of ingredient. But it's just a beautifully done knife, one of the quintessential laser knives. Out of the box edge on these is, I'd say, really quite good, probably about a 6, 7 out of 10. They have a little bit of bite to them. Very, very small edge bevel because the knife's quite thin at the edge. These will sharpen great. This HD semi-stainless is almost virtually stainless if you do even a modicum of care for this and wipe it down and don't let it sit with water on it. So use it like you need to during cutting and then wipe it down, dry it off when you're done. It'll behave almost like stainless. So it's great steel. So there you have a quintessential laser with a Funayuki slant on it, which is the Konosuke HD Funayuki Gyuto 240 millimeter.